So here's a scenario that should absolutely terrify Blue Jays fans, and I'm not sure enough people are talking about it seriously enough. Bo Bichette in an Atlanta Braves uniform. I know, it sounds insane at first, but when you actually break down the pieces, when you look at the connections, when you understand what Atlanta is trying to do right now, this makes way too much sense. And if it happens, if Bo ends up in Atlanta playing for Alex Anthopoulos, the guy who drafted him in Toronto, this might be the most painful thing Blue Jays fans have ever had to watch. Let's start with the obvious elephant in the room. Alex Anthopoulos. AA ran the Blue Jays, built a lot of that core, and then left for Atlanta. Since then, he's turned the Braves into a dynasty. Back-to-back 100-win seasons, a World Series championship, one of the best-run organizations in all of baseball. And here's the thing about AA that people forget. He's loyal to his guys. When he believes in a player, when he's invested in someone, he doesn't forget about them. Bo Bichette was drafted by Anthopoulos. He saw Bo grow up in the organization. He knows his family, knows his makeup, knows what kind of player and person he is. You don't think AA would love to bring Bo to Atlanta and show Toronto what they're missing? Come on, that's exactly the kind of move he'd make. Now let's talk about the Braves' needs, because this is where it gets really interesting. Atlanta's middle infield situation is not great. They've got Orlando Arcia at short, and while he's been solid defensively, he's not giving you much with the bat. They've tried different things at second base, and nothing has really clicked long term. Meanwhile, they've got Ronald Acuna coming back from injury. They've got Austin Riley. They've got Matt Olson. They've got all these offensive pieces. But they're missing that dynamic middle infielder who can hit at the top or middle of the order, someone who can change at bats, put pressure on defenses, and be a consistent run producer. That's Bo Bichette. That's literally the exact profile they need. And here's what makes Atlanta so dangerous in this pursuit. They have money. People don't realize how well the Braves have managed their payroll. They locked up their core stars on team-friendly deals. Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olson, all signed extensions that were below market value because AA convinced them to prioritize winning and security over maximizing every dollar. That means Atlanta has financial flexibility that most contending teams don't have. They can absolutely afford to give Bo $300 to $350 million without breaking their roster structure. That's scary. But it's not just about having the money. It's about what Atlanta can offer Bo that Toronto might not be able to anymore. Stability, a proven winning culture, a general manager who believes in him, a roster that's built to compete for championships annually, not just once. And the Braves have been to the playoffs 5 straight years. They won a World Series. They're not hoping to be good. They are good. If you're Bo Bichette coming off a devastating Game 7 loss, looking at Toronto, potentially letting you walk while they extend Kyle Tucker, why wouldn't you listen to what Atlanta has to say? Let me paint you a picture of what Bo would look like in Atlanta's lineup. Imagine this. Acuna leading off when healthy, Bo hitting second. Then you've got Riley and Olson in the heart of the order. That's terrifying. That's one of the best lineups in baseball instantly. Bo gives them a left-handed bat with speed and contact ability at the top of the order. He's on base, he's creating havoc, and he's getting driven in by the big bats behind him. Defensively, even if Bo's not elite at short, he doesn't have to be in Atlanta. They have such good pitching and defense around him that he can be average at the position, and they're fine with it. It's a perfect fit. And let's talk about the ballpark factor, because this matters. Truist Park is a pretty neutral park, maybe slightly favors hitters. It's not Coors Field, but it's not a pitcher's park either. Bo's gap-to-gap approach would play really well there. He'd get his hits, he'd drive in runs, and he wouldn't have the pressure of being the face of the franchise like he does in Toronto. In Atlanta, he's part of a star-studded core, not the guy everyone's looking at to carry the team. That might actually be better for his development and production. Now, here's where this gets really painful for Blue Jays fans. Remember the trade deadline this past year? The Braves were aggressively trying to upgrade their roster. There were reports that AA was interested in Bo, that he'd been monitoring the situation, that if Toronto made him available, Atlanta would pounce. It didn't happen because the Blue Jays obviously weren't trading Bo mid-season during a playoff push. But that interest doesn't just disappear. If anything, it intensifies when Bo hits free agency and Atlanta can pursue him without giving up prospects. Think about what AA would be able to tell Bo in their meeting. He can say, I drafted you. I believed in you from day one. I know what you're capable of, and I want to build a dynasty with you as a centerpiece. Come to Atlanta where you won't have the pressure of being in Toronto's spotlight, where you'll be surrounded by talent, where we win year after year, where the weather's better, where the taxes are lower. That's a hell of a pitch, and it's coming from a guy Bo has history with, a GM who has proven he knows how to build winners. How do you compete with that if you're Toronto? The tax situation is actually huge here, and people don't talk about it enough. Georgia has a lower tax rate than Canada. Over a 10-year contract worth $300 million, that difference adds up to tens of millions of dollars in Bo's pocket. Now, I know athletes say it's not about the money, it's about winning, but let's be real. If the money is close and Atlanta can offer more post-tax income plus a better chance to win, that's a massive advantage. The Blue Jays would have to significantly outbid Atlanta just to make up for the tax disadvantage, and if they're not willing to do that because they're committed to Tucker, Bo's gone. Here's another angle that makes this so believable. The Braves are at a stage where they need to capitalize on their window. Acuna is in his prime, but coming off a major injury. Their pitching staff is phenomenal, but injuries happen. They need to win now, and AA knows it. Adding Bo Bichette isn't just about getting better. It's about separating themselves from the rest of the National League. The Dodgers are always going to be there with their unlimited budget. The Phillies are aggressive. The Padres have talent. Atlanta needs to stay ahead, and Bo gives them that edge. Now, let me address the counter-argument because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, why would Bo leave the American League and go to the National League? Why would he want to face completely different competition? And honestly, I think that's overblown. Players switch leagues all the time. The game is the game. If anything, going to the National League might be refreshing for Bo. New challenges, new parks, a chance to prove himself against different pitching. I don't think that's a deterrent at all. You know, the other thing people will say is that Bo loves Toronto, that he's too connected to the city and the organization to leave. And look, I'm sure there's truth to that. Bo grew up around this team. He has roots there, but he also just lost Game 7 of the World Series, and now his team is prioritizing another player over him. That stings. That changes the emotional calculus. It's one thing to be loyal when you feel valued and wanted. It's another thing when you're clearly not the priority. If Bo feels like Toronto is pushing him out the door, I promise you that loyalty evaporates real quick. And here's the nightmare scenario that keeps me up at night. What if Atlanta doesn't just sign Bo, but they also make another big move and suddenly they're unstoppable? What if they add Bo and then trade for a frontline starter and now they've got the best roster in baseball? The Blue Jays would have to watch that, knowing they could have kept Bo, knowing they chose Tucker instead, knowing that their former GM built a juggernaut partially with their former franchise player. That would be brutal. That would be organizational trauma that lasts for years. Let me give you one more piece of evidence that this is real. Anthopoulos doesn't leak. He operates in silence, makes his moves, and by the time the public knows, it's done. So the fact that we're not hearing a ton about Atlanta's interest in Bo doesn't mean it's not there. It probably means AA is working behind the scenes, building relationships, positioning himself for when Bo hits free agency. That's how he operates. He's patient, calculated, and ruthless when he sees an opportunity. So, yeah, Bo Bichette to the Braves. It makes too much sense. The connections are there. The need is there. The money's there. The winning culture is there. Everything lines up. And if Toronto lets this happen, if they prioritize Tucker and watch Bo go to Atlanta and thrive, they're going to regret it forever. This isn't some wild speculation. This is a legitimate threat that should have Blue Jays management losing sleep because Alex Anthopoulos doesn't miss on the guys he really wants.